Starting with China now, Shanghai has lifted the 2-month-long COVID-19 lockdown. This comes as a welcome respite for the 25 million residents who were forced to stay at their homes under strict regulations. Listen in.
在全市人民共同努力下，日前，全市单日新增本土阳性感染者的人数降到了2位数。昨天是新增29例。 封控区的总人数降到了20万以下，防范区的总人数达到了2200万以上，疫情得到了有效的控制。
After the decision was made to exit the lockdown, the authorities in Shanghai started to dismantle the fences around the housing compounds. Large crowds of Shanghai residents gathered along the historic riverside as the clock struck midnight. And according to authorities, the city has now entered the comprehensive restoring phase. This is the third stage to control the spread of the virus. Under this, the public transport services such as bus and subway will now be restored. Rail connections which connect the city with the rest of China will also be resumed. Shopping malls, supermarkets, convenience stores and drug stores will gradually open with more than 70% of their total capacity. Schools will partially reopen on a voluntary basis. However, cinemas and gyms will not resume operation as of now. There will be no restrictions on residents and villagers who want to enter or leave the residential compounds and villages, except for those in middle and high-risk areas and areas which are put under COVID-19 management.
我们小区之前一直是在封控区，然后最近是可以自由出行了。然后今天是我第一次出来，感觉终于恢复了往日的自由。今天天气也挺好的。 然后，而且遛狗嘛，然后他就比较激动，因为他真的很久没有出来了。我觉得对于他特别向往自然的小动物来说，真的很不容易。
Many business owners were seen tidying up and cleaning up their shops in preparation for business to resume after everyone in the city faced economic losses. While many migrant workers who had to stay back in the city due to the lockdown can now head back home.
难的事情，我觉得最难的就是自己心态的一个调整嘛。因为刚开始被封的时候，其实心里面还是挺难受的，就是没有什么事情嘛。然后，刚开始的时候买菜呀，这些都是比较困难的。所以说，而且被关在家里，其实也是整个上海也是封闭的一个状态，心情还是比较低落的。
China's biggest city has reported more than 63,000 COVID cases and nearly 600 deaths since mid-March. And for more details on this story, our correspondent Richard Kimber is now joining us live from Hong Kong. Richard, thanks for joining us yet again. As we've been telling our viewers, scenes of celebration seen in Shanghai, welcome respite for residents who have been under one of the strictest and harshest lockdowns in the world. Tell us more.
That's right. I was just speaking to a friend earlier today who's been in lockdown for some 2 months. He said it's really just a whole lease of life that's been opened up to him again. He hasn't become used to having to cook at home for 2 months. Now he can go and eat whatever he likes. And it's really a whole different world for him as he steps outside and enjoys the freedom of being able to see friends and family. But this has all come at a cost, of course. While the public health initiatives are deemed to be a success from the authorities' point of view, they point to the low numbers of cases now in the city, only a handful of cases every day. They say thanks to these strict measures, there are significant concerns about the economic impact of this in what is China's financial hub. I spoke to the American Chamber of Commerce president yesterday. He said that this has really rattled the confidence of international business in Shanghai, not necessarily because of what's just happened, but whether or not it might happen again later on in the year, because there's a great deal of uncertainty about how China may potentially re-implement these types of COVID measures if there's another outbreak like the one we just saw.
Right, Richard, that actually brings me to my next question. China's zero-COVID policy has been criticized globally. Its impact on not just the Chinese economy, but the ripple effects have been felt globally. As you've just mentioned, there are fears that China may again reimpose these harsh lockdowns. If that happens, what will be the impact, not just on residents, but also the economy at large?
Well, certainly all economic metrics in China have pointed to significant problems with regards to this lockdown policy. We've seen retail spending slump, we've seen industrial output slump, we've seen consumer confidence slump, and this is a major problem for the country, which is still targeting a 5.5% annual GDP growth this year, which many economists now say is simply impossible based on Shanghai having gone through 2 months of lockdown. The challenge for the government is, after unveiling a whole raft of stimulus measures in the last couple of days, including tax breaks on buying new properties, tax breaks on buying new cars, increasing the, or speeding up rather, the process for allowing new real estate developments, all kinds of measures to try and improve economic activity in the city. It's whether or not that will really have the desired effect when, after 2 solid months of no real business taking place in Shanghai, whether or not that will actually be a quick fix, whether it might take 6 or 9 months before that sees any kind of recovery. But the crucial concern for international business, as you mentioned, is although the lockdown has been lifted, there's no clear shift in policy away from this zero COVID stance. And that's the concern for international companies in terms of not just their operations, but also, according to the American Chamber of Commerce, the hiring of top-level executive talent into China. They say that that type of talent is still pretty cautious about the idea of moving into Shanghai or Beijing, knowing that they might potentially face major travel restrictions in the future.
Right, Richard, thanks so much for all those inputs. Thanks for joining us on WION this hour. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.